Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and it is my pleasure to welcome coming in from a place called Colorado in the United States of America. Having been there for 15 years, didn't grow up there, but we'll talk a little bit about Sarah's history. The founder and CEO of the Intentional Network and author of The Intentional Networker, which is a recently released book. Sarah Hubbard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We were just talking before we pressed record about how you've been there for 15 years, and we'll talk about the environment. I said, I know somebody that lives there now who used to live 15 minutes from where I am. And it's almost like, well, it's you go overseas and you meet somebody from a different country. Oh, you must know this person.
Well, I feel like I do need to know your old neighbor that moved here because we have a lot in common of how we are running our businesses and sounds pretty exceptional.
Well, what I will do is I'll after this particular episode, I will send you her details, and I would recommend that you. In fact, there's a couple of people I'm going to recommend you connect with as well. But hey, we're going to talk about you and your background and how you've built a very successful business and all around networking. Now, people might be listening to this and think, "Oh, networking, yeah, we do this all the time," but do they actually? And this is the thing we want to touch on. Sarah, just tell us a little bit about your background, where it all started for you, and what was the catalyst or the event, if there was, to prompt you to move into this particular area and start working with organizations around how to network more effectively.
Yeah, so my journey is there was hurdles in it. I was an athlete all the way through college, thought I knew what I was going to do, which was going to be a physical therapist. Tried getting into physical therapy school on the East Coast and was rejected from 12 schools with like a 3.9 GPA. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Came out to Colorado, met my now bosses. I say that lightly because I am my own boss, even though I work for a company.
Yeah.
And they were like, you should come do residential mortgage financing. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I don't know anything about it. I can heal your body, like I can help your mind. I've never owned a house. I don't know anything about this. And they were like, we will teach you. So what do you have to lose? And so I went all in. I saw this cool opportunity I was offered. I went all in and I did a lot of the back end side of mortgage processing, which crossed T's, dotted I's. I saw a lot of the inner workings of hurdles that could come up when certain scenarios happened. And then I was asked to go into the sales role about 12 years ago. And I went in, and the gentleman that I work with, there's 15 of us. I am the only female. And they send direct mailers as their only source of income coming in, and then repeat business. So I was like, well, this is working for them. I'm going to try it. And about 6 months in and $60,000 in debt, I was miserable. Waiting for my phone to ring. People were calling me going, what's the rate? And I'm like, what's your name? Who are you? I mean, I don't know what the rate is. It could be a lot of things if you wanted me to tell you. And after some time doing that, going, I've got to find a different way to do business or else this just isn't going to work for me. I stumbled upon networking. At that time, I had very little budget, but a lot of time. And what I now realize, my superpower is I love people. I'm curious about them. Everybody has a story, whether they can share it up front right away or it takes you a few times to get to know it. So I started doing that, but I was met with a lot of resistance when I first went out. When you tell people that here in the States, when you tell people you do real estate or mortgage financing or insurance or life insurance sales, I was getting like closed-shouldered. They already knew were assuming that I knew who I was, labeling me as this person like everybody else, which can be a little selfish, non-committal, doesn't necessarily follow through on what they say they're going to do. And I was like, man, I didn't realize it was so bad in this industry. But turns out I had quite a few hurdles. And so what I did was I took a lot of time and watched a lot of people around me and kind of made them my pseudo mentors of people that looked like they were having a lot of success through networking. pick their brains, got questions that they asked so I could start replicating them and trying them out. Does
Mm,
this feel like something I would say? Does this align with my value set? And after many years of getting traction with it and dialing in kind of what my internal systems were, I got started to ask to teach people how to network because my value add to a lot of my network, whether they were a direct referral partner or not, was, hey, have you thought about this? Have you talked about your 30-second commercial this way? This is what I heard. Is this what you're going for? And it wasn't as criticism, it was as like, hey, this is what's going on and this is what I'm hearing. Is this what you're trying, the message you're trying to get at? And
mm,
people were like, no. Or some people were like, yes. And so I started kind of building a framework and realizing that the system that I was internally following was actually a framework and had some methods with it. And so about 3 years ago, I started talking to local networking groups around the area, bigger stages. I'm talking to a group of financial advisors that specialize in divorce next week in Charleston, South Carolina. And it just kind of evolved. Turns out I had a book in me, and I'm
who would
just
have
really
thought?
passionate. Yeah, right. I'm just really passionate about teaching people that everybody has magic inside of them. Introvert, extrovert, ambivert, however it is that you feel comfortable being out in rooms or
Mm,
conferences or whatever it is, and encouraging everybody to lean into that because that's what's going to attract and fuel you for the right client, for the
mm.
right referral partner, not because it's working for somebody else, but taking a little bit that might be working for somebody else and making it yours and sticking with that and knowing that you're doing the right thing because it's you and the values and you're going to attract the right people through that.
I love that. One of the questions I did want to ask you was people out there, particularly salespeople, probably think they network. But when you think about networking, and if you were to define networking from your perspective, how would you best define it?
Well, it's funny. I open up a lot of my keynotes with the word like, hey, have you ever seen that the word networking has the word working in it? Like, just like you, it's true. Just like you work your job, so you work a pipeline or make cold calls or direct mailers or whatever it
Mm,
is. Networking when you're out there meeting people is the same type of thing in a different hat or different level of a business. And so I see it as like, imagine that somebody had a camera on their shoulder all day long and you follow them along and you can watch the replay of it. And they come into contact with all these different people, clients, customers, potential referral partners at the grocery store, wherever you are. And if a conversation is happening and they don't mention your name and it's a perfect match for what you could potentially do, you haven't done a great enough job of staying top of mind and being clear about what it is that you're doing. And
yeah.
so for me, networking is making sure that your sales force out there and the people that are out there doing what they do and talking to other people, you have made a good enough, I don't want to say impression, but a good enough memory or a good enough connection with that person that when somebody says, I need this, you are the go to person for that. So for me, that is how I envision networking when they're out and about.
Yeah, I love that. And the reason I asked that question is there's a lot of networking organizations around the world, and I guess BNI is probably the biggest one that
Mm-hmm.
most people have heard of. But you got Rotary and all these different groups and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting how some people perceive networking and say, "We'll go to this networking event. We'll meet on a Tuesday morning. We'll have a buffet breakfast. We'll swap some cards. We'll do some maybe some mini elevator pitches and have a chat, and collect some business cards, and we'll see you next week." And the reason I ask that question is often people go into a networking event or a networking situation for what they can get. And what I'm suggesting, I think what we'll talk about is perhaps is not so much what you can get, but what you can create and potentially what you can give so that you become and remain top of mind. So when the opportunity does present itself, you're the first person that person is going to be thinking about.
Nailed it.
Which presupposes, of course, Sarah, that it's going to take, as you said, within the word networking is the word working, you're going to take some time to do this. It's not an instant gratification response, which I'm going to, and this is why I want to ask you, why do you think a lot of, particularly sales organizations, don't spend enough time in the networking phase? Is it because it takes time and it takes effort and it takes repeated effort? And they think that maybe if they just do a blank cold email or they make a heap of cold calls, then they'll get the numbers and they'll get that instant gratification. Why do you think there's a little bit of a hesitation for some to really get into networking?
I think it's a little combination of a few things. I don't think people give it enough time and they get a little impatient with that instant gratification. I've put in the time, right? I've gone to this Tuesday morning brunch for the last 6 months. I'm seeing the same people over and over and the same things happening, but the conversation probably hasn't left that room. And when you're having those short little 30-second elevator pitches, a couple little chit chat here or there, that amount of repetition will take years before you start actually getting into the nuts and bolts of a relationship with somebody.
Mm,
It just does. There's very few industries I have found, service-based industries like painters, HVAC, different things. Those types of sales cycles can be shorter for those because they are a trade specific
mm.
industry, but I was getting a phone call. Sorry. I was just exiting it out. I'm so sorry. I thought I exited all out.
That's all good.
So I will say people just don't give it enough time, or they choose groups that don't align with either being a little farther ahead in business or creating a community feel, or there's just something that's a little bit off.
Mm,
When you are out networking, the general consensus of why we all are out there is for revenue. We are
yeah.
all business owners. We are all sales of some sort. We're out there to expand our name and to have it lead to revenue.
Mm,
Whether it's that person giving us that direct business or it's relationships in the room or people that those people may know that are going to lead to the relationships that are going to generate revenue. And there's people that I have find that are like, that makes them a little uneasy. That makes them like, oh, I sound too salesy if I say this. No, no, that's what we're here to do.
yes.
That's what that room was there for. So you have to go in with an ask. You have to go in and be specific and intentional with your time and
Mm,
keep flexing that muscle over and over. And yes, after a year, if you've been with a group for a year, BNI, Chambers, Rotary, whatever it is, and that energy level isn't still lifting you up, you haven't had a tremendous amount of opportunities. And I'm not just talking about what's happened in the last 3 months. I'm talking about
mm,
look at the full year and have you had opportunities arise in that year. If they've been quality opportunities and your sales cycle and your business is a little longer and you haven't closed them yet, but you're excited to go, you get a lot, you're with entrepreneurs that are farther along in their business and willing to share some of the scaling techniques that they have had or technology or AI tips or whatever it is, that's
mm,
a room you want to continue to be in because it's challenging you as a business owner, a sales consultant, whatever it is. But if
yeah.
you are the top of the room and everybody's kind of taking from you, which is sometimes what happens in those other groups, we get people of all different stages of business where they're just starting to going into a different field that may just not be the right room. So I think it's a little bit of trial and error. And I think
Mm,
that people give up a little too quickly, or that I interviewed a lot of introverts from my book because I wrote my book originally from my point of view, which is very extroverted. And a lot of this stuff comes very naturally to me. And I had to take time to think of how does one actively listen? I
yeah.
had three attorneys ask me that question, and I was like, I mean, how are you guys getting clients? Was my first question to them. But second, like, oh man, I got to really dial this back. And a lot of where I have find people stop short is they've had something in their life or an experience, teacher, something in their sales career where somebody told them that it needed to be quicker or they weren't good at it. And so they try it and they don't get the immediate results and they go back to that story in their head and
Mm,
say, yep, that person was right. This isn't for me. So I'm just going to stop instead of pulling a different lever or flexing a different muscle or changing. Even just, I had a gentleman this morning, I was presenting to a group of about 50 in a business alliance in a town a couple minutes away from me. And he owns one of the business buildings and rents out office space.
yeah.
And he originally went around the room and said, I own the Parker station. I didn't know what that was. And he came up to me after. He's like, you know what, Sarah, you're so right. I should have said I own the Parker station and I have 5 offices for rent. So if you know somebody, this would be a great opportunity. I was like, And we're talking five extra words on the end of his pitch. It wasn't this like huge monumental shift, but he's like, you made me think about just getting specific. And I was like, sometimes it's just these little tweaks that actually make it click for people for a shorter sales cycle.
I love that. And I guess as you were talking, I'm thinking some people probably consider networking as I want to join a networking group which is comprised of my ideal customers. And if they're not, then I'm going to waste my time, right? And I know BNI, for example, they'll have very limited membership for a specific discipline. So if there's two engineers, we can't have three engineers. But it's not that. It's not a case of are you going to be my ideal customer? It's about me then articulating to the people in the room what does my ideal customer look like? Because you probably know people who fit my ideal customer profile that you could recommend or introduce me to. That's what it's about.
And I find I have a very abundant mindset. So I run into mortgage professionals all the time here. And you can tell when they find out, it happened to me this morning. There was one in the room, and I'm like, I'm not here to talk mortgages. But you could tell she got a little like, oh, another professional, and you're up talking in front of my group. And I'm like, well, I'm talking about networking today to your group. So I'm going to use a couple mortgage stories, but I'm
Yeah,
not here to step on your toes with this.
yeah,
But there are a handful of people that I come across in my career that are like, hey, I'm going to share this playbook with you. And I refer to them in states when I'm not licensed there and vice versa. And they almost become like a mastermind partner almost,
mm,
right? With the same thing. So sometimes being in a room that has a little bit of potential competition, if you may, is not a bad thing when it's the right person.
mm,
But you said it perfectly. When we're out networking, it's not necessarily that person that could be my ideal client. It is who that person knows and letting them share with their circle and those introductions where the magic really starts happening and
yeah,
where those feelers start going out. And then you're like, oh, so and so introduced me to this person.
mm,
And oh man, we have been power partners for 3 years, and it has
mm,
been the best introduction, right? And I was or that person was the vehicular device to make that happen, that connection happen. And that's to me where I've had a lot of my success with when I'm listening to people. Yes, I'm categorizing you in my head for your business. What would be ideal? What's that client look like? Referral partners, but also who else in this world that I know that would just be perfect for you to know because there just may be something about your business that I think I know, but I don't know every aspect.
yeah.
And that person may come in and fill those gaps and change your entire life. You just never
Mm.
know.
No, you don't. And you mentioned before that you've got an abundance mindset, which you need to have, particularly in sales. Because if
Mm.
not, if you operate with a scarcity mindset, it's going to be, you might actually grow very hungry very quickly.
And it
But
might be short-lived.
and it's short-lived as well. But the interesting thing is, it's networking is not for what you can get. It's more a case of what you can give. And I remember there was a book that was written many years ago called The Go Giver. I think
Yeah,
the
it's
guy's
written
name
by
was
the founder of BNI, Dr. Ivan Meisner. He's the founder of BNI.
yeah. So and it was this case of well, you're going to meet somebody, and it's not what you can get from them, but if you can introduce them to somebody, the world and the universe, whatever you believe, has a way of actually coming back to you with rewards because of what you've put out in terms of looking to help another human being. And it's even before we press record, talking about things like opening doors for people. That's an opportunity of adding service and being of service to somebody, which will come back and repeat. I wanted to delve in before I talk about some specifics around, I guess, method and tactics around that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the fact that you're an extrovert, self-confessed extrovert, and there's a lot of people listening to this that are probably not. They're probably introverted. And you did mention you've interviewed a lot of introverts around this. I wanted to ask you because networking doesn't necessarily just comprise of being in a physical space. So you can use things like LinkedIn as a networking tool. For the work that you do and the organizations that you help and the people that you help who perhaps are introverted, what are some key, I guess, principles that you help them through? Because they might come with a perspective of, I don't know anybody, I can't add any value. Why is anybody going to speak to me? I can't put my hand out and say, hello, my name's Darren, because what if they reject me? So I'm going to avoid it so I keep safe and stay safe. What are some key principles that you work with introverts on around this topic?
So my first thing that I work with them on is changing a little bit of that story, that mindset that they have that they're not good at this. Some of the best networkers I have met are introverts that are a part of one group only. It's the only type of activity networking that they do, which I encourage. A lot of networking are introverted networkers. Don't overcommit and draw yourself to all the things. You're not meant to sustain that first and
Yep.
foremost. You are exceptional active listeners. If you can go in with 3 or 4 questions that get people to start talking about themselves, and you can rehearse them, practice them. I have 10 questions that I have out, and get somebody to talk about their goals for 2026, or how has that been going in Q1? Do we need to make adjustments in Q2?
Mm,
If you can get those people to start talking and you're listening, your job of networking is like, it's super easy because now you don't have to say anything. Now you're
mm,
just listening and you're like thinking in your head, do I know anybody here? You're going to get to the crux of what this person across from them, are they a good fit for me? Do I like them? And do I have anybody in my network that would be benefit from knowing them?
mm.
I go into some small tips and tricks as well of physical, like how to show up. So one of the my frameworks I talk about is mindset and intention, and going in prepared. So not only just with questions, but we'll use a conference for an example, right? There's hundreds of people there, vendors, and you go in and you're like, I want to talk to these 5 people. Well, if you can get a list like on the website, these are the businesses that are going to be there. You can
Yep.
throw that into AI and say, this is what I do. This is what I'm looking for. Give me the top 20 people that I should be connecting at this conference, at this networking event. Tell me why, and 5 good questions for them. And now you're going in armed and ready
Mm,
to work that room and know I'm going to give myself 2 hours. I can go back to my room after I'm done. I don't have to be out here for 8 hours, and I don't have to go out and have drinks and dinner after, when really I just want to go and curl up in bed and recharge. That's legit, and you should honor
mm,
that. So let's maximize the time that we have with a plan, with intention. Icebreakers, like you said, it's really difficult for introverts to just walk into a conversation of a circle of people and just insert themselves and, start talking. So I tell people to wear a signature. I normally wear glasses. Today I did not, but my glasses are red with blue on the side.
okay.
If you have you're a gentleman and you wear a tie or a bow tie, a colorful thing, something that people will come up to you and say, "Wow, I love your shirt. That's a super great shirt," or "Those are great socks," or "A great belt buckle." These small little tweaks of how you show up physically are natural icebreakers for people where you don't actually have to do anything. All
Mm,
you had to do was put on a snap of color, right? And people are like, wow, I've never thought about that. Conferences are, for example, are 3 or 4 days sometimes. So wear that same royal blue color or the red color or yellow for you with your sign behind you.
mm,
If you can go in and then you're memorable. Oh yeah, you were that person with the yellow bow tie or the yellow pocket square. I remember who you were in the sea of hundreds of people that we met. So they're just small things to alleviate. And surprisingly, one of the things when I was interviewing introverts, they were like, a timer helps me feel like I have a way out. So I have an hour, I have 30 minutes, or, I've got to be here for 8 hours, whatever. That's a long conference, just so you know. But
for introvert, it is.
I mean, they be crashing and burning faster than we know. But give yourself a time limit and know that you can resort to or retreat to your safe spot, your house, your car, whatever it is, in that time frame. And if
Mm,
something starts going really awry and you're really just not feeling it, no one knows if you're
mm,
just gotta go, right?
that's
So
it.
those types of little things, being prepared, practicing some questions. I also say use the extroverts. If you know you need to speak to Darren, you don't know Darren personally, you've seen his LinkedIn, you've seen his website, you've listened to the podcast, but you're not super comfortable going up and saying, "Hey Darren, I'm Sarah. I
Mm,
love your podcast this far. Let's get to know each other more." There's a lot of people usually working the front doors of events for networking events. You can say, "Hey, is Darren Mitchell here?
yep.
Do you mind introducing me?" And let that person walk over with you and
Yep.
introduce you, and let it kind of break the ice naturally that way, is another thing that I teach people as well.
I love that. And I think if I was to summarize that, and particularly this doesn't just apply to introverts, it applies to anybody, is be prepared. Now, I
Hmm.
showed you, Sarah, my extensive list of questions I was going to ask you before the podcast, right? And I do that very specifically because I want to let people know that um, I know what I'm doing. Not that I haven't done any preparation. I just don't want to be necessarily guided by a specific list of questions that I ask. And if I put myself into a networking event, and I truly believe what you've said is the gold, is you've got to go in there and understand people are more interested in talking about themselves than they are about listening to you. And you might have the best story, the best product, the best service. You might be the person they need to meet. But if you talk about and lead with you, you're going to become very uninteresting very, very quickly.
It's true. It happens a lot, and I have found while I can talk and I enjoy talking about myself, but I'm also more curious about others. If you can go in with that and lead with curiosity and openness and practice a few questions that draw them to talk
Mm,
more, one, it alleviates all the anxiety that you may have in regards to continuing the conversation.
yeah.
But two, it allows you to learn about that person
Mm,
and you can categorize internally, are they a great fit for me? Is it somebody I want to continue and have a coffee with or have a drink with after or a bite to eat?
yeah.
That's the whole goal when you're in these types of rooms is quick 5, 10, 15-minute conversations. Do we continue this exploration outside of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I remember, I think I can't remember what book it was, but Stephen Covey always used to say, become interested, genuinely interested in other people. And through that process, many of them will find you very interesting. And that will lead to a further conversation, which leads me to, I guess, the framework that you've created called the MAP framework, because I know a lot of people would go to networking events thinking I've got to get some more prospects because I've got my numbers are not where it needs to be. My pipeline is pretty dry. And certainly in Australia, people's bullshit meters are pretty good and people can sense desperation, whether you're in it for ulterior motives, let's just say. So the being transparent and being authentic and being real is very, very important because people's detectors will go off left, right, and center. Can you talk a little bit about the map framework that you've created and how that came about? Was it just something that you, on reflection, found that you were doing, and therefore you put some specific words to it, or was there something else that sort of came up?
You nailed it right there. It was something that I was already executing, and I didn't know that it was a framework at that point in time. But I think when I was brainstorming for my book, which I didn't even have it labeled as a framework at that or a methodology at that time, I was going through kind of the steps that I do internally, and then I was like, huh, I might have an acronym here. It's not perfect, but I may have one. And it turns out I did. But so it's called the MAP framework. It's MAPP. And I'll say the different stages real quick, and we can go into a little bit of detail. There's far more detail in my book, and I'm always happy to do a little bit more detail because I'm a wide open book here. But
Yep.
the M in MAP is mindset and intention. We've talked about being prepared, but we've also talked about actually being aware of where you are. You said it perfectly. Bullshit meters are a real thing. People can read
Mm,
energy, they can read how genuine you may be, and so if you are drained or you are running late and you're just having a lot of anxiety sitting in your car, take the 5 minutes. Nobody knows if
mm,
you're going to be 5 minutes on time or 5 minutes late or 30
yeah.
minutes late. But be aware of where you are. Be aware of the mindset that you may be in your business, personally or personally. And if you can do the preparation before you walk in the room, I asked the room this morning to the people I was presenting to, how many of you had a plan of either a specific ask or somebody that you wanted to meet before you walked into this room? One
Hmm.
person raised their hand.
One
One
person out of 50.
out of 50. And this
Wow.
happens all the time. People show up, the regular scheduled networking event is on Tuesdays. I show up, I might be coming in a little hot because my daycare drop off with my kiddo was a little rough today, and I'm just going to kind of wing it and see how it goes. That will take far longer work in getting results if you don't have an intention, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a specific ask or feel like you know what you need to ask for that week. It
Mm,
just takes so much more time. So Mindset and intention are my first pillar. A is authenticity, which I know is a huge buzzword right now. It's getting thrown around left and right. Be real, be authentic with AI and social media and all of that stuff. I would also add curiosity here if it happened to fit into the framework and actually make a word. So I put authentic presence and in parentheses, curiosity. And this is hard for some people. I'm a wear it on my sleeve kind of gal. So what I'm going through in my life is part of who I show up as a professional as well. So
Yeah.
I use a story. My baby, my 3-year old, came into this world through in vitro, through IVF,
Okay.
and it was a tough journey for us. IVF in general is really, really hard. There was losses, but pregnancy for me wasn't that great. But I
Yeah.
still kept showing up, and I would show up a little gray or nauseous or sitting in the corner. But still, it wasn't because I was trying to be a martyr. It was like, what's going on? I'm like, I feel like crap, right?
Yeah.
So I've only been working for 3 hours today, but I maximized those 3 hours or whatever
Mm.
it is. I ended up getting really high blood pressure, going into the hospital at 6 months, delivering my babes early, 21 days in the NICU. It was it was a process.
Mm.
But because I still showed up, networked as I was in that moment, not my best self, that's okay, as my real self, I had
Yeah.
meals at my door for 43 nights from my
Wow.
community, not from my friends, from my community of networking. And so authentic presence is tough for a lot of people because they don't want to share maybe the real thing that's going on or the hard thing that'll somehow devalue how good of a professional I may be. I will tell you, it does the complete opposite. If it derails the person, it may not be your person, just first
Oh,
and
absolutely.
foremost.
Which comes
But
back to mindset.
exactly, it may not be your person, and that's okay. This is trial and error. This is part of what we have to do.
Yeah.
But when you can share a little bit about yourself, that's when people are like, oh, me too. And now you've all of these like hardships that you might have found. It starts like your shoulders relax. You're like, oh, this actually probably is meant to my people. We have this thing that we can talk about that's not just always business focused, but maybe business related. So you have to be a little vulnerable and you just have to be yourself. And that's so huge right now in so many aspects.
So just on that, because I do know there are a lot of, let's just label them for what they are. They're gurus out there, right? And the networking that I do and the people I'm associated with, a lot of my colleagues have access to these people, right? And they portray a certain image on stage, very successful, but backstage, completely the opposite. So disingenuous, not there to serve, but they talk about servitude and stuff like that. What you've just said there is I think a superpower because if you can go into any environment and be really comfortable with who you are, with all the foibles, with all the shit that might have been going on in that particular day in your life, and be able to openly share that, then it actually sends a message to other people that, oh, this person's not pretending. This person,
Hmm.
despite all of the stuff that she's dealing with, she's still stepping up to the plate, still doing and still asking questions about me. That's somebody I want to get to know better.
Yeah, and the curiosity piece, this is partially because of how much resistance was met with in big regards to when people found out what I did specifically originally. They
Okay.
automatically labeled me as this dishonest, doesn't follow through, looks young, so she must be inexperienced type thing.
Yeah.
It could be. Don't get me wrong. There are people out there that are all of those things, but
Yeah.
the curiosity piece, please don't go in thinking you know somebody because of what they do professionally.
Yeah.
All of us have hobbies outside of what we do professionally. Though I will find when I ask attorneys what they do outside of being an attorney, they don't have a lot of hobbies. It's a very difficult question for a lot of them. I hate to say it, sorry, attorneys, but it is. I do this exercise in my networking events that I run, and I say you can't say what you do professionally for the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
What do I talk about, Sarah?
Oh my gosh, people really struggle. But then once like one person like breaks the ice, people are like, "Oh, I'm this. I'm a foodie. I really like to read and I play softball still. My husband and I met playing softball against each other."
Okay.
Right? So like different these types of things, we all have them. And so when you can be curious and try to pull it out of somebody or listen, it's just that relationship And that trust building happens so much faster.
I love that. In fact, as you were talking, I'm thinking it reminds me of some of the challenges I issue sales teams because a lot of sales training is very much geared around the product, the service, and salespeople think I've got the best product, so therefore I've got to go and talk about it. So I issue them the challenge and say, right, for the next week, how many of you will be able to have conversations with your customers and not mention your product once? They say,
It's so
well, what am
difficult.
I going to talk about? So
What
we're
else do I
going
say here?
to
You talk about them, you find out what's going on in their business, you find out what's going on in their personal lives. Like we are so much more than the product or the thing that we are doing.
Well, and that's the thing and when you think about networking, and you can network within your own company if you're working for an organization. So how much do you know about the people that you work with every single day, right? And or you just leave it at a surface level to say, well, they're just a salesperson, they're just a telemarketer, they're just an engineer, they're just a paralegal or whatever the case might be. But I'll ask leaders all the time, how much do you know about the people you're responsible for? And that goes for their birthdays. Are they married? Do they have kids? What are the kids' names? What are their hobbies? And I said, well, why do I need to know that? It has no relevance to what they do on a daily basis. I said, it is relevant because you are managing and leading the human being, my friend.
Thank you. That's the key to leadership. You have just nailed it right on the head in like two sentences.
That's it.
Excuse me, completely agree. The next P in the framework is precise messaging.
Mm,
Um, I tell people all the time, this goes from when you're standing at the airport and somebody asks you what you do you just say, I do residential mortgage financing? And people are like, oh, okay. Or are you saying something funny? Or are you saying a one-liner that gets people to ask you another question?
mm,
This all takes time and practice. Okay. This is not
yeah,
something that happens overnight. But one of the things that I tell a lot of my groups to do is we all have a cell phone.
yeah.
Um, Record yourself giving your 30-second introduction. You can do it on Zoom, you can do it on your cell phone. You don't need to post it anywhere. This doesn't need to be like general knowledge for everybody. But how do you look? How do you
Mm,
sound? Are your shoulders slumped over? Are you saying and like a whole lot? Are you very clear and confident? Do you like a little sarcasm? Do you like humor? All of those things make up a great 30-second pitch, but you have to practice it and you have to see what you look like. And then the most importantly is what do other people hear you
mm,
saying? That is the key. So keeping it simple, pretend you're talking to a 10-year-old. I don't know about you, Darren, but I have found over the time of networking, and this may have been like an older school thing, but there's still people that I meet to this day that drop acronyms and terms that they use in their business. And I think at some point in time in the past, that may have been a credibility builder because people were like, well, I have no idea what that person's talking about. They must be super smart. So that means that they know what they're doing.
And I
That
better
does
not
the
ask them.
complete, yeah, that does the complete opposite today. Just so we all know, it will take you 10 times longer to bridge that hurdle of what you do when you talk over people.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple, using AI. I've got prompts in my book and different things, and you have to feed it, right? AI is not this magic wonder worker, right? It is still a computer, and
Mm,
you have to tell it what you do, who your ideal client is. Do you want to try some humor? Do you want to have a tagline? Do you want to do this? But my basic framework of what I do for my pitches is I tell people to have like a disruptor. So
hmm
a quote, a story, uh, something that makes people go, oh, instead of hi, my name is, and this is what I do, which ends up happening when you stand in a room. I'm sure you've seen it. And everybody starts going around the room. Hi, my name's Sarah Hubbard. I do residential mortgage financing with Vertex Financial Group. The first five people get the attention. The rest after that, you're lost in the sea of
Totally.
sounding like everybody else.
Yeah.
So do something to disrupt. Did you hear that the Fed lowered the Fed funds rate? Do you think that interest rates went down?
Mm,
Turns out they
mm,
did the complete opposite yesterday, right? Something that just is like, oh, I didn't know that. Then the bulk of what I do residential mortgage financing in 18 states. I love working with business owners that have been established for a year and want to make homeownership achievable in the next two. I work
mm.
really closely with pre planning their books to make that achievable. This week, I am looking for here's your ask. I'm looking
Yeah.
for real estate agents. I'm looking for insurance people. I'm looking for a new bookkeeper. It doesn't necessarily have to fuel your business. It could be something that I insert here a lot is I'm looking for that go-to person when you have a struggle. Who do you call?
Mm.
Who's that expert that you know in leadership development, in speaking, in this?
Yeah.
I want an introduction to that person. And people are like, oh, I call so and so for my car sales, or I call so and so for this. That's something a little bit different. And it allows you to expand your network to hopefully really exceptional people. But coming down to that messaging is so key.
And it's specific, and again, it's being able to articulate what does your ideal customer potentially look like, or what does the ideal person who may be connected to your ideal customer look like?
Yes. And being specific about that.
Yes.
If you are using the word anybody, if you are being too broad in your ask, it doesn't make somebody go, oh, they need to know this person in my head.
Yeah.
It just becomes a monotony of it'll take 6 or 7 more times for that person to go, oh, you should meet this person.
Mm.
I pick on a Mary Kay consultant that I knew years ago. She would stand up in our group and say, I can help anybody with skin.
So
Okay, we all have skin. So technically she could help all of us, right?
it's
I mean, that is a fair thing.
it's
I
like
remember
saying
sitting down with her.
I work with people who breathe.
Yeah, exactly. I work with anybody that needs oxygen. That's cool. You know, and I remember going, she took me out to coffee and she's like, I don't know, I'm not getting any traction here. I've been doing this for 6 months. And I
Really?
was like, yeah. And I was like, can I help? Are you open to suggestion first and foremost? I was like, you need to get more specific on your ask. Who do you want to help? Teenagers, 40-plus-year-old women, 60-plus-year-old women, 20-year-olds. I mean, the options are endless and you can help multiple facets of people, but you can't be jumping all over the place. Stick with it for like a month or two, then rotate to this person and then rotate to this sector. Maybe your business is in cycles and during prom season, high schoolers love more makeup. I don't know. I'm just making some stuff up here, but she was like, "Oh, I'd like to help teenagers that are, going through puberty and, manning breakouts and then teaching them how to do makeup properly." I'm like, "You've never
Yeah.
said that one time." And turns
So
out
how are
when
people
she
going to
changed
know?
that, when she changed it, people were like, "Oh, my niece needs this, my daughter needs this, my this needs this." And it was just, everybody has skin. It's funny, right? I mean, it is humorous, but it's just not specific enough. And so when you use the word anybody who, it's too broad for your circle to understand the introductions that you're looking for or who your ideal client is. So getting specific is not a bad thing here.
And and the point I want to make with that, because you've built quite a successful business, doing just that, identifying who your ideal client is and being focused on that. So anybody outside of that, maybe you'll refer to somebody else, but that's not your sweet spot. So you know exactly what your sweet spot is. What do you say to people? Because I see this a lot in sales that they try to have such a big scattergun approach. I want to be a life coach for everybody. I'm a leadership coach, so I can help anybody in leadership. Versus, no, I specialize in sales leadership. So sales leaders who are needing to or wanting to move their networking and their ability to the next level and become exceptional. I'm just not talking about everybody. So that's where the precise messaging becomes really important. And there's a reason why they say the riches are buried in the niches, right? So the
Yep.
more specific you become, it's counterintuitive because people might think, oh, there's less people there. But when you get really clear on your ideal customer and the problem you solve for them, then it becomes more of a quality conversation.
I also find when you have shown that you are expert matter for a specific niche, people will still come to you and say, "Hey, I don't know if this is the exact niche that you do, but I have this scenario. Is this something that you can help, or who would you refer this out to?"
Mm,
That happens to me all the time.
yep.
And there are most of them I can help, but there are some, like I don't do reverse mortgages personally. That is a whole nother bread and butter for me that
Yep.
there's some people that are amazing at it. It's just not my expertise. So I refer that out. But people still come to me because I am the expert matter in mortgages or in networking.
Yep.
My ideal client in networking is somebody that's exceptional at their job and feels really inadequate at people, feels
Hmm.
like an introvert, that they can't go in and work the room. I want to talk to them all day long and give them the empowerment and the tools. But that doesn't mean I don't have extroverts come to me and say, "Can you help me with my 30-second pitch?"
Yeah.
I just feel like something's off here. That's okay, but you have to continue to be specific with it. If you can't do that, it just that sales cycle that you would have not only for what product you're selling now, but for getting ideal people into that product is 3 times longer. And we want to try to keep shortening that more and more.
You do. You do. And it comes back to mindset as well. And almost go so far as to say within the mindset, who's your identity? So how do you see yourself? What when you wake up in the morning and when people ask you, because when people ask you what you do, it's easy, right? And Simon Sinek says this all the time with the circle of whatever he's called, the why, the how, and the what.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do people understand why they do things, and that starts to point directly to your identity. So if you know exactly who
Very
you are
much.
and who you can help, there's an energy that comes from that, and that's quite an attractive energy.
Well, and I think there's confidence that comes with it. And people are like, I
Yeah,
want to be on that bandwagon with them. I want to
yeah,
have some of that. So I can take some of that and put that into me because maybe they don't have it quite dialed in yet, or
mm,
it's coming, or we're evolving or changing our business, whatever it is. So
yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. I love Simon Sinek. I usually actually quote him in my authentic presence thing in my book and stuff when I'm speaking on stages because he just has a really unique way of describing authenticity that I'm like, thank you. This is really
Yeah,
great.
that's it.
Um,
So we've
and
got
then
we've
the
got
last, go
mindset, we've
ahead,
got authentic presence, we've got precise messaging, and the last P.
which is the most important P. If you could do nothing else that I've already talked about, it's purposeful follow through. So I asked the room this morning, how many of you have had a coffee or a drink with somebody? It was great. You enjoyed each other so much. We're going to do all these great things. You get back to your desk and now you're drowning in 100 emails and we're back into the grind. And that promise maybe never happened or life just started happening. And now 6 months have gone down the road. Neither of you have actually done anything. You haven't had any follow up connections with each other. And you're like, this doesn't work because I'm not getting any opportunities. Well, it's because there was no either follow through, no promises made, no next step intention either set with them or set with yourself.
Yeah,
And this does not need to be overly complicated. There are some great CRMs out there. I get asked this question all the time. What CRM do you use and how much do you pay for it? You don't have to pay for anything if you don't want to. You can use Excel. You can
that's
use a
it.
Google Doc. You can use Airtable. I don't care what it is that you use. You don't need to have these big fancy technologies. If you have one, then let's please use it. But if you
Yeah.
don't have one and you don't necessarily have the budget to invest in one, you don't need it.
Mm,
So for me, the purposeful follow through piece comes from I add them to my Excel spreadsheet. I use AI for this a lot because it helps me because I don't necessarily have as much time anymore to come down, pop everything in. So when I'm driving from networking event home or networking event back to the office, I open up chat and I talk to it and I say, I just met Darren Mitchell. He's in Australia. Really, really dynamic guy. Love his laugh. He's married. I everything that I've gotten from you, I just dump it and tell
yeah.
it to put it in the notes in Darren Mitchell and mark Darren as N. I have a simple system: A, B, C's or nothing.
Hmm.
A's are these people can really fuel my business and give me potential opportunities on a very regular basis, and I like them. I need to be giving them personalized reach outs every 2 to 3 weeks,
Yeah.
every month, right? This is not just adding somebody to an email list and click it and forget it. That's not what this is. This is, hey, I just listened to this podcast, thought of you. There's some great value adds here. I read this book. I saw something you posted on LinkedIn. Is everything okay? Let's go grab a drink or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So, personalized reach out, adding the value, and people get a little bogged down by is the value enough value? It's the personalization. It's not the mass email that makes a difference here.
Totally.
B's are our businesses may have some overlap. I really like you as a person. I'm going to see you in my community because we're in the same group here. But maybe you're going to get reaches out or personal touches from me every 2 to 3 months. So maybe
Mm,
quarterly, right? Because there may not be that direct connection, right? I get
yeah.
this with commercial real estate and residential mortgage financing. I don't do commercial,
Yeah.
but there has been a few opportunities where they've had tenants that need something and I can help them. So maybe I get an opportunity 3 or 4 times a year for them.
Mm,
They still get a little bit of me, but just not as much.
yeah.
C's are We're great, but our businesses are night and day. You are a, Fortune 500 corporation and I am a medium-sized business owner, but I still want to know you. I'm still going to see you. So now you're just going to get a personalization from me every 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I have everybody labeled in my CRM A, B, C's, and then a nothing designation is they're still in your CRM, but it's a no for you. They
Hmm.
don't, other person doesn't need to know that it's a no for you.
Yeah.
They're just not going to get any more personalization.
Mm.
You can still pop them on your automatic email list. And who knows, maybe they were having an off day. Maybe you were having an off day. Maybe that nothing designation comes to something later. You never
Yeah.
know. But they're still there because they are still part of your network. And you have to work the list.
Mm.
Just like you have to work when you're selling for a pipeline, you have to follow up with your clients. If somebody wants to buy a house in a year, I'm not letting a whole year go by before I'm talking to you. I'm probably talking to you in 3 to 4 months to make sure our timeline still looks the same. Does our job look good? Are you still feeling confident that our timeline is in a year? You have to still touch base with these people.
Yeah.
This is where everybody drops it.
Mm.
That I've loved it, I've loved this, and then nothing happens. Or you've promised something, you didn't deliver it, or didn't deliver it in the time frame that you thought you were going to.
Yeah.
And now you have a little shame around it, and you're like, oh, well, I can't show my face here again. That trust gap just went from like this to this when you do something like that. Like if you happen to promise something and it doesn't happen, still do it.
Mm.
And you don't have to go to this elaborate apology. Sorry it took me so long. Would love to, here's what I promised. Would love to get together next month, or I'll see you at BNI next month, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Still do it because that builds credibility. But the lack of not doing and the lack of follow up and follow through
Mm.
really kills the trust factor, but also these conversations keep happening. People can think you're wonderful and fantastic, but if nothing happens after that, you will not get opportunities like this. It's not
Mm.
luck, it is work.
Yeah.
And whatever that system may be, mine is super simple. It's not meant to be this overwhelming thing. I work it on Fridays. I give it 30 minutes and I work through and I personalize text messages or phone calls or voice to text. And how are the kids? How's the family? You were on my mind. I probably send you were on my mind because it happens. I'm driving somewhere and I think about this person and I'm like, the world is telling me I need to talk to this person for some reason. So I just go with it, man. That's what I do. And it's not because
Well,
I have an agenda, it's because they were on my brain.
and that's the thing I wanted to touch on. The greatest salespeople that I know detach from the outcome. So when you're thinking about somebody, reaching out to them, just saying hello, um, can be just another step in the process, but another seed that's being planted. That hey, I was just thinking about you. Just thought I'd reach out, see how things are going. Right?
Hmm.
That could be all that's required at that particular time. It also brings into mind, there was some research I was sharing with some sales teams not long ago where just on the follow up, how about, and this is Gartner research, it's National Sales Executive Organization research, about 50% of salespeople give up after the first contact, and 80% of deals, irrespective of the size of the deal, happens between the fifth and 12th plus contact. So if
Hmm.
you think about sales cycles over 12 months, that presupposes you've got to keep in regular contact with your prospective customer, because if you don't, that trust gap is going to widen again, and you're not going to get the opportunity. So I,
Well,
I
and
love that.
we're also at a time where we're getting hit with constant knowledge, ads. I am this, I am that. But if you're not doing a job of staying in contact, staying in touch, you're gonna get left. The priority level of being here will be here, and you
Mm,
now run the gap of somebody else coming in to
mm,
sell the product or do the
yeah,
thing. And it's hard. I mean, I've had seasons in my business where I am just so full. My schedule is so full, and the last thing I want to do is spend 15 to 30 minutes reaching out to my people.
mm,
It goes such a long way when it happens.
yeah,
Even when I'll say one last thing on a soapbox. I also am not a huge proponent of putting in the email just following up.
yeah,
I will tell you, people, when they see that, it feels like you're a chore or like you're kind of working a list, which you technically are, which is a thing,
Mm,
but you have to find ways to make it personalized, to make it feel like you weren't just a job to do today.
yeah,
You were
yeah,
truly caring about it. And so
understand.
people are like, well, what do I say? Just circling back, just this. I'm like,
No,
don't say
don't
just
use that.
anything. Please leave it all out the door and just get to the point because guess what? The
Straight to the
person
point.
reading that email wants the point. They don't want to read the
Totally.
fluff first. They
Oh
want
my
the
God.
point.
It reminds me of there's a specific agent that he keeps throwing potential guests at me, right? And if I don't respond within 24 hours, I know exactly the next email, and the next email is just bumping this to the top of your inbox in case it gets lost. I mean, come on, mate. Delete.
I saw it. Delete it.
And what he also does, it's obviously a template because he doesn't change the names. So I had one where it was the guest name was like a Ted, but down the bottom it was saying, "Hopefully we can get Ivana on the podcast." Come on, mate. I'm not going to spend time listening, looking at that. So delete, delete.
Yep.
So hey, I love that. Hey, Sarah, it's been a great conversation. I could probably talk for hours more. So I'm conscious of time. You've got another call to get to, but thank you for being a guest on the podcast. With people who want to know more about you and connect and learn a little bit more about what you do, particularly from a networking point of view, but also where can they get a copy of your book, The Intentional Networker? Where's the
Yes.
best place for them to connect?
Amazon is the best place for the book, but it's available at Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, all of those big name department stores. Book is available online. The Intentional Networker. Best way to connect. My website is simple. It's sarah-hubbard.com. That for me is where I hub all of my stuff. You can jump on my email list. You can just reach out and say, hey, Sarah, what's going on? I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn and Instagram. LinkedIn is my name, Sarah Hubbard, and Instagram is unfortunately has my maiden name, which I still love, which is Flannery, but it's Sarah Ann Ann Flan Flann. I'm always open for conversations, any way that I can help you improve. If you have any questions or want anything else that could help you improve your networking game, I am wide open to those conversations.
Love that. Love that. So I'll put that in the show notes and highly encourage people to connect with you, but also do themselves a favor and get a copy of the Intentional Networker. So it can become a Bible for them to help with their networking endeavors. So Sarah, once again, privileged to have you on the podcast. Been a great conversation, and thank you for being a guest on the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.